And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Mark Christopher Lee, British filmmaker, UFO researcher, and cult broadcaster. He co-founded UFO Disclosure UK, campaigning for transparency and whistleblower protection, and he is here today to discuss Rendlesham, the British Roswell. Mark, thanks for joining me and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for inviting me. I'm super excited.
Well, we're super excited to have you. And you were, or still are, an accomplished musician. How did you go from that to UFOs?
Well, I've been doing the same band, the Pocket Gods, for about 25 years now, which is quite great that I had the same band for such a long time without falling out with anyone. So that's really cool. And we recorded about 76 albums. And we had an interesting a period where we got a lot of publicity. We started writing just 30-second songs. There's a little bit of making a statement about the lack of royalties from music streaming, because services pay out after 30 seconds and it's not very much. So why are we writing longer songs? I thought it was a really good idea. So we started making album after album. We got a Guinness World Record. It was super exciting. Talked to Billboard, got on Wall Street Journal, did Fox News, all this great stuff.
Amazing.
And, I even had a meeting with the head of music at Spotify. So there was all these really good stuff going on. I thought, I'm going to make a film about it. Well, how do I make a film? So I went to Rain Dance Film School in London, run by a fantastic Canadian called Elliot Grove. Learned the basics of filmmaking, made a film about the band. And then I thought, I really enjoyed this. And my main passion in life is UFOs, the paranormal, and the unexplained. I thought, I've got to make films. So I started making UFO films. And my first film I did was called God versus Aliens, just because it was a great title. And it was about the impact that first contact would have on the world's religions, spirituality, and how it just changed things. And that wasn't the biggest budget of film, but I really enjoyed making it. And, here I am still doing it. So I'm very blessed to be talking to you now. So thank you.
Well, did you ever write any songs about UFOs?
Loads.
Wow.
Absolutely loads. Yeah. I did one called Someone Else Is on Our Moon, which is about, maybe other races of aliens being on the moon. UFOs only take the insane, which is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek jibe. If you see a UFO, who you going to call? Nick Pope.
Sounds like a good punk rock song.
So it was a punk, and Nick actually likes it. It was quite chuffed that we wrote. So there's loads, and we did quite a few concept albums about UFOs. So it's always been my passion, really, since a kid. So I love to explore it creatively, really.
That's cool. Before we get into Rendlesham, you've piqued my interest. What would happen to religion, if you can give us a synopsis, if UFOs did show up?
I mean, honestly, when I came up with the idea for this film, I thought, it would have a massive impact and the world would be turned upside down. But the more I talk to different people from different faiths, they've all got a plan in place. The Catholic Church, has got a Monsignor appointed, a cardinal to deal with first contact. They've got their own observatory. They're actively looking for life out there. And basically the consensus was among the main religions. I spoke to an Islamic scholar, a few rabbis, and they're all saying, it's all part of God's creation, God's world, so we can incorporate them in our belief structure. So I think at first it would have a massive kind of impact, and it would take the world leaders, the world religious leaders, to calm the people and to bring a bit of order to the chaos at first. But eventually it would just fall into place, I think, unless the aliens would bring their own gods, because they would be obviously far more advanced than we are, just by the fact that they've got here. So maybe they're super evolved, and either they come to the conclusion there's no religion and you're not allowed to believe in it, or they've got their own weird belief system that they're going to impose us because they're culturally far more advanced than we are. So there's loads of different scenarios you can go down. And the funniest one that I found, I spoke to Professor Ravi Loeb about this. He's actually in the film as well. And he proposes the situation where, you know, aliens are not going to be sending out flesh and blood people, humans, whatever you want to call them. They're going to be sending out AI robots of some sort. And the worst case scenario is their AI makes contact with our AI and bypasses humanity altogether. I thought that was quite interesting.
Who is the new Pope? Pope Leo? Is that his name?
Mm. Yeah, it's American, isn't it? Yeah.
Right. I just saw a news article, I believe, that he's saying that if ETs do show up, he's going to baptize them.
Absolutely, yeah. The Catholic Church wants to take ownership of this, I think, and be the ones to get them in their flock. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, for people who have never heard about the Rendlesham incident or only know very little, can you start with what happened that night in December 26, 1980?
Sure. It was actually 3 nights, 26th, 27th, 28th of December 1980. In Suffolk, UK, there were two air bases, NATO, where the US were stationed, called RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge, surrounded by this place called Rendlesham Forest. So over this period of this weekend, there were various sightings of the servicemen had of lights in the woods, and they would go out and investigate and see what was going on. And this eventually came to the attention of Colonel Charles Halt, who was deputy base commander of these bases. And he had enough of it. He wanted to put the UFO story to bed. So he went out there one night with a team to try and crack it, basically, try and debunk it. So he went out there with a team, took his famous dictaphone recorder, and he recorded what he saw. And, you know, if you still listen to the recording now, it's really, really strange. And you see beams of light coming down from this object in the sky, and then bits of molten metal coming out of this sphere. It's really, really weird. And that recording still exists. And the other interesting thing that happened that weekend, there was a couple of servicemen, Jim Penniston and John Burroughs, who claimed to have saw a triangular craft land in the forest. And they went to look at it. I mean, their accounts vary, so I won't go into all of it. But Jim Penniston claims to have, you know, gone up to this craft and touched it, and it had weird hieroglyphics on it. I mean, why do all these craft always have hieroglyphics on it? Is one of the common features, I think. And then he claims, years later, to have had a download of binary code, which always sounds to me the most far-fetched part of this story. Was that he had this download, but he didn't write it down until years later. And it gave some cryptic message about saving humanity in some mythical place called High Brazil. And I always found it really, really odd, but really, really interesting. And I thought, yeah, maybe the electromagnetic radiation is, you know, gave him some sort of hallucinatory experience, which is possible. And John Burroughs also he can't confirm that Jim did this, but John was there. So I was thinking maybe they both had their own weird experiences because maybe the electromagnetic radiation coming off affected them differently. But yeah, so Jim Penniston's binary download I found really interesting, but really strange. And I was kind of debunking it a little bit. But then when we did our own investigation there for the film, it was a long day. And I got back home eventually about 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and I was lied down on my bed, and all I could see was ones and zeros in front of me. I kid you not.
Wow.
That was, yeah, I mean, that was to spook me out. And
Did you write them down?
Not yet, no. Maybe not yet, no, I haven't, no. It kind of freaked me out. And then, because, you know, just for the background for your listeners, I do have a science degree, so I'm quite kind of rational. And I was trying to debunk myself and thinking, well, I knew about Jim Penniston and the binary code, and I've had a really quite weird stuff did happen during the day, which I'll go into. It was an eventful day. And then maybe I'm just really tired and my mind's just playing tricks with me. But I definitely saw the binary code. Maybe I do need to write it down. But I just find it quite odd. There's something strange about Rendlesham Forest. In my opinion, and the reason why I wanted to make this film was not just because of the 1980 incident, which still remains unsolved and still the greatest UFO case in the world, in my opinion. It hasn't been properly debunked. No one can explain it. And definitely something happened. There's too much evidence to say it was just the lighthouse, which it wasn't. So in my opinion, something definitely happened. But the weirdest thing for me is that I spoke to so many people, in the last few years that have been to Rendlesham in the 90s, the 2000s, even more recently, and have had either UFO, paranormal, cryptid, or other weird phenomena happen to them at this forest. So why is that? And why has no one really talked about that? And that's kind of what I wanted to do. So that was the basis for the film anyway.
Aren't Peniston and Burroughs considered more credible witnesses than the ones from Roswell?
Definitely, yeah, because they were active servicemen and they were very credible people, but still are. And they've been fighting a long time to get medical pension from the US military because whatever they encountered affected their health, which is the scariest part. And what I didn't know until investigating this case more closely is that just 24 hours after this incident, there was another massive UFO case in the US, the Cash Landrum incident in Houston, Texas. And that's where I think it's Betty Cash and Vicky Landrum and Kobe, their son, were in the car. It's in Houston, Texas. This is 24 hours after Rendlesham. And there was like a diamond-shaped UFO, which was emitting something. And they all suffered serious radiation burns. Colby less so, the son, because he was hiding under the back seat. But the two women suffered extensive medical, damage and affected their lives uh, as much as it did Jim Peniston and John Burroughs. So I find that quite interesting.
I feel that those injuries due to radiation give this phenomena a lot of credibility.
Absolutely. But then the more I looked into it, it was like I took the context of where Rendlesham was in 1980. It was the middle of the Cold War. Okay. It was a NATO base in the UK with nuclear weapons. Okay, for a start, there's always seems to be a nuclear connection to a lot of UFO sightings. Uh, so there were nuclear weapons there. It was in the Cold War, and also nearby, people don't realize, just a few miles away, where the lighthouse was in Orford Ness, there was also a secret military radar research station at Orford Ness. There's also another one nearby at Martlesham Heath. I just found out this information recently, and Professor Simon Holland has been researching this, and it seems like they were testing some sort of new technology, new weapon, and that's what may have been happening at Rendlesham Forest, I believe. However, I don't think it's just that. I think there's more to it than that. I think that whatever they tested out this weekend possibly sounds a bit out there, possibly opened a portal or messed around with the different levels of reality. So there's things that are coming in since then to this area, such as orbs of light, UFOs, even cryptids. And, we started this film calling it the British Roswell, but we were thinking by the end it was like Skinwalker Ranch because of all this unexplained phenomena. And it sounds really out there. I've got a science degree, so I'm always trying to rationalize stuff and what's the most logical explanation. And I don't know. I think something definitely happened. It's most likely testing some sort of new technology. The Americans and British, maybe a joint program, because we found information about Margaret Thatcher, who was Prime Minister of the UK at the time. And she famously quoted to UFO researcher Georgina Bruni informally. They were at a dinner somewhere, and Georgina Bruni was researching Rendlesham. She said to Margaret Thatcher, "Okay, Rendlesham and UFOs, what's it about?" And she goes, "It wasn't UFOs, but you can't tell the people." That was the famous phrase. Why can't you tell the people? Maybe because it's so top secret, so kind of controversial what they were doing there. And then, 24 hours later, maybe they were testing the same craft or weapon in the US. It's interesting.
Didn't Peniston and Burroughs also experience missing time for about 45 minutes?
Yeah, and they still can't explain it. And so, yeah, that's a common theme in, UFO experiences, alien encounters, is this missing time phenomena. And Alan Godfrey of the Todmorden UFO in the UK, he experienced missing time as well. He was a police officer that encountered something, and he lost 25 minutes, I think, that couldn't be accounted for. And the other interesting thing about Jim Penniston and John Burroughs, they won't talk about it too much, but they were debriefed by the US security, the men in black, whatever you want to call them, and they used all sorts of tactics on them. And there's another person who is controversial figure, Larry Warren. He claims to have been at Rendlesham and encountered aliens during this weekend. I say controversial because his account can't be verified by anyone, and I'm not going to go down there so much, but he deserves to be listened to, and he definitely experienced serious interrogation, which affected his mind, in my opinion, which is quite scary.
Now, the forest is in between two military bases, so the public has access to it.
The public has access to it, yes.
And can go right to the landing site if they like?
Yeah, and that's what we did. Yeah, it was, we took a team last year, and because I don't want to talk too much about the film, but we originally had Colonel Halt was on board, because the executive producer on the film is this retired CID police detective called John Hanson. And he's got the most amazing UFO archive in the UK. It's in Stratford-upon-Avon, which is Shakespeare country. And there's literally hundreds of thousands of UFO sightings in the UK, all documented. There's diagrams, there's videos, there's photos. And he's got the most amazing collection of documents on Rendlesham. And he's authored 2 books with Colonel Halt, The Halt Perspective and The Halt Perspective 2. Both the place to go if you want to know about Rendlesham. So Colonel Halt was going to come on board, he was going to come over, but for various reasons he couldn't. But he did give some great advice. We found out where the actual landing site was supposed to be, because you go there now and then there's a sculpture of the UFO, but that's not where the landing site was. So we managed to find the landing site. I mean, it's a massive forest and it's great. There's trails everywhere. You can soon get lost. It's very disorientating. But it has, in my opinion, a mystical presence. And that doesn't sound very scientific, but it's an amazing place. And the whole area has a history of myth, folklore, legend. There's the will-o'-the-wisps, which are like orbs that you used to see in medieval time. The lantern men, which were these mythical kind of ghostly figures that were on the fens in East Anglia. And then we've got legends of cryptids like the Black Shuck, which is like a big black dog that used to materialize and said to be the devil coming to form. And even the local church door has got claws scratched on it from this black dog. So there's all this folklore, and and you're kind of aware of that when you're there. It's got this kind of presence. It's hard to explain. So we found the landing site, and then what we wanted to do is test out close encounters of the fifth kind, psionics, people are calling it now, where you get a group together, meditate, kind of raise your vibration and invite whatever's out there here. And we did that, and it was like we had amazing results. And so, yeah, it was.
Well, what showed up?
Okay. Well, first of all, we tried it. Before we went, we interviewed a couple of people. There was Richard Lawrence from the Aetherius Society, and they were ahead of the game. There's this kind of UFO religion started in the 1950s, but they were making telepathic contacts with aliens and UFOs way back then. So to them, it's nothing new. So he was giving me some advice on what to do. And then I spoke to a lovely lady in the US called Ray Dove. And similarly, she's experienced in doing CE5 psionics, and she was telling us what to do. So we followed their instructions. So we got to the forest. We used dowsing rods. And if you know what dowsing rods are?
Yeah.
Yeah. to try and locate a really good spot near the landing site where we could do this. Uh, and we found a spot, the dowsing pods were just like going like this, like crazy. And it's all on film. Uh, and then we sat down, we did a meditation. Uh, and at first it didn't go very well. My good buddy, best mate, who came with me, we do all our stuff with, Guy Thompson. He'd been drinking Guinness, which I think drinking alcohol is a bit of a no-no when you're doing this. I'm teetotal, so I wasn't drinking. So we had little bit of a row. And he's my best bud, but we made up, and then we decided to ask Esther, who was our assistant director, to help us really. So there was three of us doing it to give more energy to it. So she came off the crew to help us, and that basically, as soon as the three of us started doing the CA5 meditating, straight away we started hearing this weird electronic sound that was buzzing around the woods. It was really, really strange, and it was a little bit scary, a little bit freaky, because we couldn't identify it. It wasn't anything natural. I've got a science degree in environmental studies. I pretty not know most of the natural sounds, especially in this area. And the best way of describing it, it was like there's a TV program over here called Doctor Who. There's like a weird kind of old-fashioned Moog synthesizer that someone had just left on, and really percussive sound, and it was, and it was very, very strange. And then we kept kind of reaching out to it when it was kind of answering us, and there was a rhythmic pattern to the answers. And then we had an EMF reader to read the background electromagnetic radiation, and that kept spiking as well out of nowhere. Just it was into the red, and you can see this all in the film. It's all as it was. So we decided to go into the forest, see if we can find the location of where the sound was coming from, which we did. But once we were in the forest, we started seeing orbs of light move around, which we captured on film, which is really weird, really, really, really weird. And we still can't explain it and what happened.
Your film was also narrated by William Davis, who worked on the X-Files, right?
Well, this is it. I mean, one of the things that first got me into UFOs was the X-Files TV series. It was just amazing, up in my mind. And Chris Carter, the creator of the X-Files, was a big fan of UFOs, read the 14 Times, got a lot of his ideas from there. And obviously, William B. Davis was such an iconic figure, one of the constant characters alongside Mulder and Scully that went all the way through. And then when we had the idea for a film, I met someone at Cannes Film Festival that said, he's still working and he's really good and he likes independent films. So I just reached out to his agent and sent him the script for the narration, and he really liked it. So it was like, wow. And because he's Canadian, we recorded him virtually, directed him from Vancouver. He was in Vancouver, and such a lovely guy, and did such a great job on it. So it was like definitely one of the highlights of my cultural life. William B. Davis, lovely chap.
I think some of the skeptics will say that Peniston's binary code was copied from an episode of the X-Files.
Which one was that? Was that the one with the kid that was...
I don't know which one, but I think it was an episode that came out in like 93 or something.
Is that when he got the idea? Wow.
Peniston didn't come out with the binary code until much later.
Yeah, that's always been a bit of a red flag for me. Why so long?
Mm-hmm.
Why not write it down straight away? And apparently it's in his notebook, and he did a sketch of the craft. Yeah, that makes no sense to me. I can't explain it. But then my own binary code experience,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm quite willing to accept it could be psychosomatic, could be just my subconscious coming up with something because I had a really intense day, really tired. And, your mind does play tricks on you. I'm quite aware of that. And I've got an open mind, but you have to be able to debunk yourself.
Well, maybe you can get hypnotherapy and see if you can get the message.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, let's do it.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be, yeah.
Too bad you already put the film out, because we could, we could have put it in the film.
The return to Rendlesham.
Yeah, there you go. At some point, you contacted Prime Minister Starmer about this, didn't you?
Did, yeah. I mean, what led to that, we set up a UFO disclosure group in the UK, because I put in freedom of information requests about Rendlesham getting knocked back. And also we've had a lot of drone sightings in the same area more recently. And I was contacted by some woman, I won't give her name, a woman near the RAF Lakenheath, which is another Air Force base not far from Bentwaters in East Anglia. And she sent me video after video of all these strange drones that come in every night. And she got visited by a real life man in black who had a business card, because she sent me the business card of this special agent who I phoned up and left a message, but never replied. So we were getting knocked back all the time. So we launched this UFO disclosure group in the UK. Basically, a lot of investigators on social media, some great guys, got them all together, and we authored a letter to Sir Keir Starmer. And there was someone in the audience actually who came along who was a close personal friend of Sir Keir Starmer, so we were able to hand deliver it, just asking for a meeting with ministers just to discuss the issue, because we've got, active service men and women coming forward, and including pilots with their own near misses, their own experiences, something unexplained in the skies, and they don't feel confident enough to come forward about that. So part of this group is to try and create a safe platform for whistleblowers to tell their story and say what's going on, really.
How much interest do you believe the British public has about UFOs? And do you think it's more than even the Americans?
I think unofficially, yes. Officially, people will, if they're questioned about it, say, oh no, it's all rubbish. It's all stiff upper lip, and it's all a bit jokey, a bit snigger. But then I go to a lot of events around the country, film festivals, business meetings, people from all walks of life. Not necessarily anything to do with UFOs, but I'll always wear a UFO badge or something, and people will see that, and then, oh, you talk about UFOs. Oh, what do you think about it? They'll gauge what you think about it. Literally everyone, you get a room of people, literally everyone in there has had some sort of UFO or paranormal experience, I kid you, and they want to talk about it, but they're too scared of the ridicule, because that's what you'll get in the UK at the moment. And even with me trying to reach out to the UK government, they'll say it's not important, it's not of defence significance, where it is, because there's unexplained stuff in the sky, but they won't admit to it. So it feels like you're beating head against the wall a bit in the UK, and we look at the US and things to be progressing better, and we don't have that. And that's what we're trying to do in the UK, really, is to get people to take it more seriously, because a lot of people have had these weird experiences, which they want to talk about, but they've got that fear of ridicule.
If full disclosure were to happen, what do you think would come out about the Rendlesham Forest event?
My personal opinion on this, I mean, I think they were testing something, a new weapon, a new craft. And because I think you have to take context that it was the Cold War, this Cold War with Russia, the Soviet Union. And ever since the Manhattan Project, the military's wanted to weaponize physics. Okay, so we've got nuclear weapons now, what can we do next? So, experimenting with new technology, pushing physics to the limit, really. And I think that's probably what was going on. But I like with everything, I don't think with UFOs in general, there's not just one answer to it. It can be all these things. It can be alien craft. It can be reverse engineered craft. It can be our own technology. It can be interdimensional. It can be time travelers. It can be all these things. There's not just one hat fits all answer to UFOs. And I think that's the problem. We want just one simple answer, which is why the ET explanation tends to be, the one that's favored, because that's simpler for us to understand that there's life on another planet is coming here. Whereas I think the reality is that there is life here, but possibly in other dimensions of reality, other platforms of existence, if you will, and sometimes it intermingles with us, overlaps. That's where my own personal experiences and beliefs have led me to believe, as crazy as that sounds.
One thing that's interesting is in the binary code message that Pensington got, and I think you referred to it earlier, there's an island out there that used to exist on maps that doesn't anymore.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. It's called High Brazil.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like an Atlantis type lost civilization. It may even be Atlantis, some have suggested, because it is beyond the Straits of Gibraltar, which is where Plato said it existed. And there is an also Atlantis connection to Rendlesham, possibly as well, because Rendlesham Forest is just like a couple of miles from the North Sea. And in the North Sea, they found this ancient civilization called Doggerland, which is an old continent which is now submerged. And they found evidence, archaeological evidence from that, there were people living there, there was a civilization. So some have suggested that, oh, maybe that was Atlantis, just off the coast of Rendlesham. And maybe what we're seeing at Rendlesham was USOs. I don't know, it's a bit far out, but it's possible, because I think as well about the 1980 incident, it wasn't just that Christmas weekend. Having gone to this UFO archive of John Hanson, the police officer, I found basically hundreds of sightings that year in this area, especially coming off the North Sea on the East Coast, literally hundreds of sightings from Norfolk, Suffolk in the UK. So that's really interesting. Although we focus on one incident because it was a US military base that had nuclear weapons, so we should. There was lots of other documented sightings with really good detailed descriptions and diagrams, testimony from people who saw it. So there is a lot of evidence that there was a bit of a UFO wave in 1980 in that area.
If it was a weapons test, do you think that Peniston and Burroughs just accidentally went out there when they shouldn't have and got mixed up in it?
Yeah, you would hope that was the case, that it was just an accident. I guess the worst case is that they tested it without anyone's knowledge, and they wanted to see what the reaction was of these servicemen to what they encountered. At the end of the day, we don't know, and I don't claim to know, but I think there was a cover-up of some sort, because Richard Lawrence, who I mentioned earlier, he was one of the first people to be on the phone to RAF Bentwaters when he heard about this a few days afterwards. And, the person on the phone he was speaking to said, yeah, there was a UFO that, landed. And, this woman was chatting away to him and he was getting all this information. And that whilst he was on the phone to this woman, she was told it's classified, he's got to stop talking about it, and basically shut the conversation there and then. And I've also found evidence from a crop circle researcher in the UK called Colin Andrews. And he was unofficially working for the Thatcher government at the same time on looking at crop circles and what was forming those. And I wonder if we're dealing with the same technology, possibly, because where most of the crop circles happen in the UK is Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, which is the big Ministry of Defence base area. So there's a possibility there that some of the crop circles were formed by this technology.
If the story is legit and there was ETs visiting, do you think it was actually us from the future coming back to give a warning?
Yeah, possibly. I like that theory, and I think that's Steven Spielberg's. He seems to think that ETs, greys are us from the future, coming back to give us a warning. Quite possibly, and that would kind of explain the weird craft, the hieroglyphics, maybe the telepathic download. Possibly. I do like that theory, but like I said earlier, I don't think there's one answer to the UFO phenomena. That could be one of them. There's no reason why it should just be aliens from another planet. You know, if time travel is going to exist, we know the physics are there for it. So there's no reason why someone thousands of years in the future hasn't invented a time machine.
Were you only successful participating in a CE5 event in the Rendlesham Forest, or have you been able to get success in your backyard?
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, you know, is it just Rendlesham? Is it like Skinwalker Ranch? Is there something weird about the place where you have to go there and it can only happen there where stuff manifests? Because, you know, I've spoken to a lot of people who've been there since 1980, meditated and had things appear. So is it the place or is it the process? So we also did, there's another film actually called UFO Encounters of the Fifth Kind. I just filmed it at the back of my house. I live in the country. So there's a big open space field, really good all round vision of the sky. And so we did this. We got some cameras. We got quite a large group of people. We just chilled out, put some music on, in a really good, good vibe going on. And nothing happened basically. We had a really nice time. Spotted a load of stars, satellites, International Space Station, and we finished filming. And literally, as we finished filming, we saw something way off high. Luckily, we got the cameras back on, so it is in. Quick, go back on. So, and yeah, there was something unexplained. We manifested an orb, and it was way up high. We got all the tracking devices. So it wasn't anything. It wasn't a satellite or a plane or anything. It was something unexplained that appeared to us right at the end. So this is the thing. CE5 or psionics, if it works, it should work anywhere. You shouldn't need a sacred space or landscape to do it. So maybe Rendlesham, people go in there, they've got expectations because of what happened in 1980. So maybe they go in, their expectations are high, which is helping because the vibration's higher, the consciousness levels are higher. So they're able to do it better. So that's my theory. Or there was a portal opened at Rendlesham because of what they were testing. Because this also falls into the cryptids that have been seen there. Nick Redfern, who was a British researcher and author, he labeled it the Rendlesham shrug monkey, which is a bit like Skinwalker meets Sasquatch. And the other weird thing that happened to us whilst we were at Rendlesham, this is not on camera because we finished filming. We were walking back really late, pitch black, getting lost, going around in circles. We heard this really weird howl. The only way I could describe it is like a werewolf from a horror film. We don't have any wolves in the UK apart from zoos. There's no zoos nearby. And it scared the bejesus out of everybody. And we go, we need to get back to the car. And yeah, that was scary. We didn't know what it was. Was that some sort of cryptid? I don't know. Possibly, but it scared us anyway.
I saw something in another video about Rendlesham where they were talking about the sounds that Peniston and Burroughs heard, and
Right.
they felt like it was the deer that were in the forest, like the deer make some certain sound. Are you
Yeah.
aware of that?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I mean, where I live, we have deer. We have a herd of white deer nearby, and they do make strange sounds. But it wasn't what we heard. I know what deer sounds like, and it can be weird. And I do know that creatures at night do sound weird. There's a lot of fighting. It's like badgers. They've got a really weird sound when they're fighting or mating. So there were a lot of strange sounds in the forest, but this was definitely a wolf. We don't have wolves.
Well, I agree with you that CE5 should be able to work anywhere, but I would think that it would be better in more remote locations like the forest or maybe even in your country house compared to if you were trying to do it in Piccadilly Circus.
You said Piccadilly. We were going to try that because we had the film premiere at Piccadilly Circus for Rendlesham in the summer. And we had this idea of doing CE5 outside the cinema, looking down to Buckingham Palace, but we didn't. maybe because it, like you say, we need somewhere remote, quiet, where we can focus. Yeah.
At least a rooftop somewhere in the general area that you could go up there and.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Rooftop bar. That sounds good.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
So, what is your take on crop circles, especially since you're in the UK and it appears that that's where most of them happen?
Yeah, it's been a really good year as well this year. There's been quite a lot of activity. I think, first of all, like with UFOs, there are a lot that are hoaxes that are really clever. It's not just a couple of guys with a couple of planks, which because they were written off in the 80s with that story, which was just ridiculous. Some of them were, and these guys, but the guys couldn't have possibly been in so many places at the same time all around the world. Two guys with two planks of wood. And some of them are so intricate, and it doesn't explain the biochemical changes to the plant structure that happens in the best crop circles. And there's a really good Dutch scientist, Joe Hasselhoff. He's done a lot of research into this, where he studied the really good crop circles, and it's some sort of electromagnetic radiation heat that has damaged the crops in a certain way and elongated the nodes. It's quite complex science, but it's not just planks of wood or even drones. It's something very, very strange. So whether it's our own technology, possibly, or whether it's something else, another intelligence, non-human intelligence, making communication, possibly it seems to be some sort of code. You talked about binary code. There are a couple of crop circles I know that use binary code as a way of communicating. Interesting.
Have you spoken to Avi Loeb recently about Three Eye Atlas?
I do speak to Avi Loeb quite a lot, and yeah, he's a great guy, and he's one of the few scientists that are willing putting in the serious work to look for life elsewhere. And I think he's going to town on Three Eye Atlas because with Oumuamua, kind of no one took that seriously, and we didn't really get enough data on Oumuamua when it came through. So I think this is why he wants, the scientific world, NASA, the world governments to take it seriously, because it could be, there's still a possibility he sees. He still gives it 4 out of 10, maybe going up a little bit on the Loeb scale, that it could be of extraterrestrial origin, some sort of alien technology, even if it's obsolete, it's come from deep space and is millions of years old, it's accumulated, whatever to it. So it looks weird, but it's definitely the most unusual thing that's ever come through our solar system. And there's something weird going on with NASA. They're claiming they're not releasing the high resolution images because of the government shutdown. And I know Representative Anna Paulina Luna's had a meeting with NASA, and they're given that reason. But I don't know. I've been contacted by so many people, like remote viewers, saying they've had communications with whatever is on board Three Eye Atlas. And these are very, very serious people that are telling me this information, and I listen to them. We've got an open mind. Whereas the scientific consensus, apart from Avi Loeb, is just a rock. It's a comet, but it doesn't look like one, doesn't behave like one. It's a comet. Can't be anything else. Whereas Avi Loeb will push the boundaries. That's not the way science works. These are not the questions we should be asking. So fair play to Avi Loeb, and I hope he keeps up the good work.
Have you had your own personal sightings of UFOs?
Yes. I'll tell you, my first one I had it wasn't a UFO, but it was, I now think maybe it was an alien encounter. I was a child, about 4 or 5, and this kind of angelic face came out of my bedroom wall. It was blue and it came out shimmering. It was really, really weird. And it was just like, whoa, what is this? And I wasn't dreaming. And it was a woman's face. And it gave me a message that everything would be okay. The next day, I should say, things weren't okay. I didn't have a very happy childhood. I won't go into the details, but this was like I don't know. It was weird. I can't explain it. It's really hard. Written a song about it about 20 odd years ago. So it's out there 20 years ago, documented. Uh, at the time, I interpreted it as an angelic experience. Is how I looked at it, because it was protective. It was giving me a message of hope. There were bad times ahead, but I would get through. And I clung to that vision, and that did keep me going. But now I've spoken to other people that have had similar things, and they think it might be some sort of non-human intelligence. I suppose, you brought up in a religious background, you see things as angels or demons, I guess. A bit like your vice president commented the other day about UFOs and aliens being demons. But yeah, so that's one experience I had as a kid. And then whilst we were filming Rendlesham, we had all those experiences. But when we got home from filming, the morning after, I was obviously really tired. I was sat in the garden with my wife, and she saw this orb above the house. Literally, it was like, "Wow, what is that?" Managed to get my camera. I was like, got it on. So I actually got it, and we put it right at the end of the film, so you can see it. And there's like, that was just so weird. So it's like, did something follow us home, or it was really interesting. Yeah.
What does a post-disclosure world look like to you?
It depends what they're disclosing and because we don't know what the truth is. We can speculate on what is interacting with us. I think if you're taking UFOs, alien encounters in general, and my personal opinion based upon what's happened to me, my experiences, my investigations, I don't think UFOs and aliens are necessarily from another planet. I think it's far weirder. It's non-human intelligence. It's like John Keel called them ultra-terrestrials, like they're kind of playing with us a little bit and way beyond our comprehension. Sometimes they interact with us, and they'll take different appearances to different people. It's far too nebulous, amorphic. It's far too random for us to get disclosure. That's what I think. And I think there are those that know this. And how can you disclose that to the world? That material reality is just a little part of existence. And beyond that, there's different levels, and you might come back, your energy might reform. That's what I personally believe, and it's just my personal opinion. And I've tried to rationalize it. I don't think it's aliens from another planet. I think there probably are, obviously. I don't think they're coming here, but that's my belief. And I don't think you can disclose this weirdness. I think it would just be too much for people to comprehend and to deal with. So maybe that's why it's kind of being delayed, or that's just my thoughts anyway.
I agree with you that it appears like a lot of the sightings are some sort of ultra-terrestrial, especially these plasma orbs. But then you have all these Senate hearings over here in the US about crash retrieval programs.
Absolutely. Yeah. But maybe what's crashing is our technology. It's our super advanced technology. That's what I think could be happening. And I think there's still a lot regarding disclosure. We need accountability. Where does all the money go to the black budget? They spend billions and trillions on military development weapons. Do we really need that? I guess that's the issue I've got. Where's the money going? Who's got it? What's it going on?
Yeah.
And that's why we need accountability, which is why I like the work that your what's his name, Congressman Tim Burchett does, because he's got that kind of, okay, what's happening? We need some transparency.
I guess it's like they always say, follow the money.
That's a really good adage that has served me well in life. It's always about the money, yeah. In this material reality that is Earth. Yes. follow the money.
Well, if somebody would like to go watch this film, where do they see it?
Okay, it's out on Amazon Prime and Apple TV. It's called the Rendlesham UFO, the British Roswell. And if anyone wants to just get in touch, they've got their own experiences or encounters. I'm always happy to talk to people and try and help make sense if I can.
What's your next project?
I'd like to do a film on the Holy Grail and the search for the mythical, legendary Holy Grail. Something a little bit away from UFOs, but still kind of unexplained. And I'm thinking more of the Holy Grail. People see it as the chalice that Christ used at the Last Supper, but I see it more as a secret hidden knowledge passed down through centuries. So that would be a good project, I think.
It reminds me of Dan Brown's book.
Yeah, the Da Vinci Code. But I mean, Dan Brown's book was actually based on a lot of research by other authors who have got a lot of evidence of this hidden knowledge being transferred down by secret societies, Rosicrucians, for example. There's a chap from St Albans where I live called Sir Francis Bacon. He was the guy that basically invented the scientific method, but he was also leader of the Rosicrucians. I mean, I've been told he had this secret ancient knowledge passed down by the Magi, and the Magi were the three wise men from the New Testament birth of Christ story. So there's this interesting lineage of this hidden secret knowledge coming down. But what I want to do, if it is hidden secret, why let the public have it? Let humanity have it to share rather than keep it in secret cabals.
Doesn't that story end up somewhere in the UK at the Roslin Chapel or something? It's been a while since I've looked into that, isn't it? Like
Yeah, there is
Scotland or somewhere?
Yeah, that was the Knights Templar chapel built in the 12th, 13th century. Very, very weird place. And allegedly the Holy Grail, it exists as a cup, is buried there. So yeah, there's lots of places to explore, and there's a great little French village called Rennes-le-Château in the south of France, and this is the village where a priest of the local church found ancient parchments in the 17th century and 18th century, and whatever was in these parchments he took to the Vatican, and basically this guy became a millionaire overnight because of what he found. He was paid off. So it's like, what was in those? It's a really interesting story. So yeah.
Do you have a website if people want to look into either your music or your films?
Yeah, if you go to nubfilm.co.uk, everything's on there. And we do a TV series as well out on Tubi called Nub TV, where we interview people like Harvey Lowe, Jeremy Corbell, and all those about weird stuff. So it's all interesting. Thank you.
Well, if people want to contact you, are you open to that? And if so, should they do it from your website?
Yeah, you can email me from the website. I'm also on TikTok at the King of UFOs, Instagram the same at the King of UFOs. X I'm on as well, the King of UFO. You can soon find me. It's Mark Christopher Lee. Just put me in Google and all the links come up. Always happy to talk to anyone from anywhere around the world about unexplained phenomena. It's my mission in life is to try and explain some of it and make sense of it.
Mark, before we finish up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
Okay. You are what you think. Your mind can create your reality. We can all change our lives for the better by positive thinking, by positive actions, by serving our community and our world. Since I started thinking like this way back in 2015, 16, my life's changed completely for the better, just by knowing this and by focusing, meditating, connecting, and trying to provide service and values to the world, and not taking yourself too seriously.
Mark, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been amazing. Loved it. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.